So Barry, in 2008, you lost over $1.4 million. You were doing conventional financial advisory work, and you were also a real estate investor. So what happened?
Yeah, 2008 was brutal for a lot of people. I lost a lot of real estate. But Steve, let me back up one step. How did I get there? I come from a music background. I play guitar. I've got a couple albums out there and love that. Was teaching guitar at a university. And my summers would slow down. Had a friend that was in financial planning. I got licensed and began putting my own money and my clients' money into the market. And what I discovered pretty quickly was that it wasn't working the way that I was being told it was working. But I pushed hard, pushed hard, pushed hard. Got into real estate investing, acquired this, large real estate portfolio. I owned a trusted investment company, was living in Las Vegas at the time. 2007 rolls around, and I'm hearing from my real estate and financial counterparts around me, hey, there is no bubble. Things are amazing. Vegas is going to continue to grow. And then the crash of 2008, the housing market, everything went, terribly wrong. I lost a lot of real estate. I lost a lot of cash. It was brutal. It was depressing. It was frustrating. So yes, 2008, I lose over $1.4 million. And it was painful just to get out of bed in the morning. Like, what do I do? Can't go back to real estate in the way that I was doing it. So pivoted with foreclosures and got some real estate investor buddies around to make that happen. But I also discovered what we're going to talk a little bit about today with cash value whole life insurance. And what's so interesting is when I got licensed with my friend back in 2001, I was selling life insurance. I was just selling the wrong kind of life insurance. Had I been selling and promoting the high cash value insurance, when 2008 happened, I would have been in a much safer place because these policies grow money guaranteed, etc. But the idea that you can go from basically losing everything, multiple real estate properties are being foreclosed on, not a whole lot of money in the bank, family suffering, we had to move out of state. And Las Vegas was the hardest hit city in all of the country when it came to foreclosures. I learned some very valuable lessons through that experience, which I use today and implement today myself and with a lot of my clients. But yes, that experience in 2008 propelled me to grow in ways that I'd never grown before, but I had to make a choice to do it. And we want to help people in making those same type of choices, right? You can lay in bed and not do anything and be depressed and frustrated and angry at the world. Or you can take these steps every single day to progress. And they're small steps. Oh my gosh, it took years and years to recover from that. But there are ways, there are things that you can be doing today to get to that end result, whether it's growing wealth, whether it's future tax-free retirement income, whether it's a business. Maybe you want to get into something that you know nothing about. Maybe it's education and bettering yourself in that particular field. But it is the small and simple things that can bring great things to pass. But man, it takes a ton of work.
Wow, so that was quite an experience. But I'd like to give people that are meeting you for the first time in this video, Barry, a chance to get to know you a little bit better. So I want to back up a little bit from some of the stuff. Obviously, that was a dramatic recovery. You learned a lot of lessons. I want to unpack that a little bit more with you as well. But first, what you were teaching guitar, right, at the collegiate level. What got you to decide to get into the financial world in the first place? I know you have some family background with that, but what really motivated you to even get into financial advisory services and the like?
And you had mentioned this before we started recording, but music is very specific, right? It's a discipline. It takes time to learn. I've played guitar now for over 40 years, a couple
Mm.
albums out there, and still love to play today. I've played in a lot of bands and love that. But I love the idea of music and the teaching. But when my summers would slow down from teaching at the university, I was just, twiddling my thumbs. Not really, but I had spare time on my hands. And I grew up watching my parents invest in real estate. They would buy a vacant lot, build a spec home. I mean, whatever it was, they did a lot of real estate building and developing. And internally, even though I was a musician and that's, was a huge passion to me, I had this bug that was, I want to be an investor. Sounds cool. It's going to be cool. What do I need to do to become an investor? So I had this friend who got me into financial services. And he would tell me things like, this is where the wealthy make money. You got to be in the market. And he's showing me 12 and 18% returns every year, like, crazy today. But that's what he was showing. So I bought into it and started building a business. And it just didn't go the way that he had said it was going to go. Clients are not making money. Some clients are losing money. I'm putting my own money in the market. And it really propelled me to go down this path of discovery because I would go back to him and I would say, what do I tell my clients who are losing money or aren't making money? And his answer was, tell them they're in it for the long haul. And I didn't like the answer. It just wasn't comforting to me. It didn't have any, hope or potential positive outcome. It was just crossing your fingers and hoping for some positive outcome, but nothing certain, nothing guaranteed, nothing predictable. So that's when I really got on the path of the real estate investing and high cash value whole life insurance because I wanted certainty. I wanted predictability. The real estate, obviously, there are tax benefits and it's a hard, tangible asset. But even in real estate, it goes up and down in value. And you've got to be aware of that. I wasn't fully aware of that, heavily leveraged, and then no one expected that we would see the horrendous crash that we saw in 2008 in the real estate market and the mortgage market.
When you were doing financial work, you were doing traditional advisory kinds of things. Like give people a little better idea. Were you doing 401ks, IRAs, uh,
Mutual funds, yeah,
mutual funds,
yeah.
stocks? Okay, so you had people in those assets, and was it during that time, or the whole time you were doing it, or was it during that time they were losing a lot of money? Was there a lot of down?
Yeah, kind of threw out because when I saw that the market wasn't performing the way my mentor was telling me, I began to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't consciously stay in that world of the volatility and the losses and who knows what your future is going to look like. So I began to pivot into the real estate, into the whole life insurance, and started a trusted investment company. And what was great about the trusted investment company is that investors would go onto a trust deed, usually in a first position, and they were secured by actual real estate. But when the real estate crashed, 50% of value, and
Yeah.
the borrower, who was a real estate developer or someone in that world, couldn't pay for those loans, there's a lot of problems that come with that.
Yep. I remember it well. I started my trust and estates practice in '07, and right into '08, which was a crazy time for sure for so many. And I ended up doing a lot of foreclosure defense. But I was in Florida. That was bad as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So, okay. So you really didn't stay in it too long because it was just so it violated your conscience, is what you're saying. And you've often said, I know one of my favorite phrases of yours is that you like to sleep at night and help people do things that are have certainty attached to them. And obviously, you didn't like feeding them some kind of a line about staying in it. So, do you think that this is why you are as passionate as you are about giving people the kind of advice that you do?
I know it. I know this is why I'm passionate about it, because think about it. If you've lost over $1.4 million, if you've seen volatility in the market and actual people calling me and saying, Barry, where are these double digit returns you told us we were going to get? And they're losing sleep and you're losing sleep. Getting on that journey of discovering something guaranteed, liquid, tax free, permanent, I was like, this is it. This is it. So my passion is helping people, one, never lose money, never ever lose money, but better yet, two, to grow more wealth, and three, to have tax-free money. Because Steve, look, if you're in the market, you might be listening, you're in the market. I'm not saying don't ever be in the market, but your 401k and IRA, when you take the money out, you have no idea what the tax brackets will be. And regardless of what they're going to be, 100% of the money in your 401k and IRA is taxable. So why leave it to chance? Why not have something in your portfolio that is tax free? So I love what I do. I love working with people all over the country. I've done this now for 25 years in financial services. And I love being able to say to someone, you'll never lose money with me. You'll never lose money with the insurance companies that we work with. And I get calls and texts from clients who'll say, hey, Barry, the market's down, but what I've done with you is still growing. Those are great phone
Yeah.
calls to have. Those are great texts to get from clients. And frankly, the money, the guarantees, the outcome is more important, right? The money and the guarantees, those are one thing. What we want is the outcome. The outcome of, are you having a better life? The outcome of, are you sleeping well at night? The
Yeah.
outcome of peace of mind, that's huge. What
Yeah.
about the outcome of making sure your family's protected, your legacy is protected, your assets are protected? Steve, in the last 4 months, I've had two clients pass away. One was 39 years old, 39, and the other was 51, both young individuals. So I love to be able to share with someone these principles:
Yeah.
protection, right?
So, and
Certainty, predictability. Yeah.
yep. So let's back up a little bit more because I told you I was going to come back to this. When you went through the collapse, when losing, 1.4 million plus in value, you mentioned that you learned some key lessons, some things that, and you touched on it, but we didn't unpack it very much yet. You had to make yourself get up in the morning. Can you give people a little more understanding of the kinds of things that you were thinking during that time and the kinds of, maybe you had some mentors, maybe you had to do a lot of self-talk. What did you do? What kind of practical things, if someone is going through that or has, or maybe just wants to avoid it at all costs, what can you tell them?
Well, number one, stay close to God. Okay, that's just number one. Stay close to God. But two, you do have to surround yourself with people that are looking at both sides of the equation. Unfortunately, I was surrounding myself with people that were only looking at one side of the equation. And that was, there is no bubble in the market in Las Vegas. We're going to continue to climb and climb and climb and climb. And I heard that nearly every day from the people that I was surrounding myself with. I wish someone would have been around me that said, look, take a little more serious look at what is happening, what is going on. The third thing I learned was I was definitely over leveraged. And I didn't think I was, because I was on the idea or the mindset of things are going to continue to grow and increase. But today I would tell someone, don't be too over leveraged. There are companies out there like Apple that do use debt. They use debt to their advantage, and debt can be a very good thing, but not when you're over leveraged. So you've got to look at, we call it LTV in the real estate world, right? Loan to value. You can't be over leveraged. Make sure you have good relationships with your lenders. But the principle is you are in more control of your money than someone else. Real estate, stocks, mutual funds, there are no guarantees. And I didn't have anything in my portfolio that was guaranteed. The type of life insurance that I had was term insurance and VUL, variable universal life. That's what I started off selling 25 years ago. There aren't guarantees really in a VUL because it's tied to the market.
Right.
Had I had something guaranteed and predictable in my portfolio, I probably would have weathered the 2008 storm much better.
So you learned from all the pain, chaos that you went through. You stayed close to God, which, there is a saying, if storms with God build you, storms without God break you. It didn't break you. You had your faith. You had some, sounds like people around you that were helpful, and then you had your own values and your own ability, I guess, right? Your grit to pull yourself back out of that using the principles that, would you say it's fair to consider the principles you learned growing up? Did that help you, or what did you draw from just to get back on your feet knowledge wise?
Yeah, honestly, there were days it was really hard to get out of bed. Looking at what do I do? How do I pull myself out of this? But every day, that's what I did. It's prayerful and just tried to move forward, doing something every day. And it took years to get back. And so losing over 1.4 million, one, I never want to do it again because it was so terrible. But I have gained much more than the 1.4 million that I lost. Not just dollars, I've made much more money than that. But the experience, you really can't put a price on an experience like that, especially if you turn it around to your advantage, right? To now leverage the opportunity myself, but I can leverage the opportunity with my clients. Because look, I've got clients coming to me and they'll say something similar, or what are you going to do in this situation? I just had a client reach out to me through a text the other day and said, I need some brotherly advice. That made me feel really good. Like, oh, this client's coming to me and asking for brotherly advice. So being able to leverage the experience is huge. I never want to go through it again. But these principles now, putting them into place, allow me to create more wealth in my own life. And then helping other people, that's awesome. That's one of the reasons I love what I do. I can take past experiences that were very difficult to go through, but help hundreds, if not thousands of people potentially have a much better life, growing more wealth, paying less in tax, and then the ultimate feeling of more peace and assurance in their financial life, but in their overall life.
So, and I'm not asking you to reveal the confidence, but what kind of advice, the types of questions that you get, what are people asking you, given your unique way that you advise people?
I've had clients come to me that are going through a divorce and they want some feedback. I've
Hmm.
had clients come to me about, hey, I have lost a job. What do you recommend? But then on the flip side, I have clients come to me and say, look, I've got this amazing real estate opportunity, or I'm ready to buy a business. What do you recommend?
Hmm.
It could be even incorporating. Should I get an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp? How can I avoid tax or pay less in tax on the sale of a business? The gamut is so wide, but I like it all. I've had experience in many different things over the last 25 years. And you know what? We're all linked together. Like emotionally, we're all linked together. And we should be helping one another, not taking advantage of one another. We want to be helping one another. And the higher the tide raises all ships, right? So people need good financial advice. but people also need good life advice. This book over my shoulder, Live Rich, Die Rich. I wrote it this year. There's something to that. Living rich today, but also dying rich so that you can leave an amazing legacy for your heirs or a charity, whatever you want to do. But this is, mindset. And one of the really key things that I attribute to God was helping me with my mindset, that not wanting to get out of bed in the morning, not wanting to, just move in a particular day, thinking optimistically, okay, what can come from this? And how can I be in a place of abundance and trying to keep that abundant thinking in my mind? Well, I want clients to experience that too.
Hmm.
Thinking abundantly isn't just fluff. Thinking abundantly scientifically has been proven that when you think positively, you're changing the neurons and the receptacles in your brain. You're literally rewiring your brain. And then, Steve, you see opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have seen before. This is what I love helping people experience, because abundance, mindset, it plays such a key role in the future you're going to have or that you're not going to have. Depends on how you think about it.
Did you learn that during the time that you were clawing back in 2008, or was that something that you drew from at that point? How did that help you?
When I got into the industry in 2001, I was surrounded by a lot of people that were thinking optimistically and thinking abundantly. The problem was they were, putting people into a system that was relatively broken with the volatility of the market. But those people, they were good people. And we were always reading, great books and getting good advice and, just going down that path of filling your mind with good things, trying to stay away from the negative news cycles or whatever it might be. That's gone on in my world for a very long time. I still try to practice that today with good books, good people, good TV, good exercise. I mean, all that comes into play.
Yeah, feed your mind. I think it was Warren Buffett that famously said, "Don't lose money." So your point, Barry, on that should be well taken, and you've positioned yourself to offer that to clients. So let's so you get a new client calls you today. How do you view that new opportunity to talk to someone? How do you take that whole background that you lived, your challenges, failures? You got somebody maybe younger than you that wants some help. How do you go about that process with them to bring what you've learned to their value?
It's always about them, their goals. What are they wanting to accomplish? Where are they saving and investing money today? What are they doing for work? What do they want to do for work? Some people are in jobs that they hate. Some people are in jobs that they absolutely love and they never consider doing anything differently. I want to focus on an individual person's goals, their dreams, what they expect with family, etc. And then we start building from there, because when you look at an individual and you say, okay, what does your portfolio look like? And there's a varying array of that. Got some clients that are worth $100,000. Got some clients that are worth 50 million plus dollars. So those goals are going to be a little bit differently, but the principles are the same. The principles stay the same. So we apply the principles and help that individual with their goals. As always, we want to look at a person's numbers. We're going to look at a little illustration today about a client with some tax-free income, but it's goal driven. And again, I was getting advice from different people, and I always encourage someone coming to me, you want to get advice from different people. Now, today it's really easy to do because you can go to YouTube, right? There's so much education you can get. And Steve, here's another thing I'll say. When someone comes to me, I want to make sure they're getting correct education. So, what we do here at Insurance and Estates is educate, videos, podcasts, webinars, all that. So we're sharing the content, and I encourage people coming in to view the content. And the principle is this: you are your number one asset. So invest in yourself, invest in the education, pay for the education, get the free education through YouTube, and discover for yourself some of these things that can be applied in your own life to grow wealth, to have money coming to you tax free, whether it's building a business. Maybe you want to do better in the job that you currently have. What's education that you could get that could grow your career, right? There's a lot of things that you can do, but invest in yourself. You are your number one asset. And we at Insurance and Estates, we love educating people. We thrive on it because it's so powerful. And I love taking someone that first comes in, and whether it's a few months later or a year later, and seeing how they're now thinking about the world, how they're thinking about money, because it's a dramatic shift. Just in the last few months with my book coming out, I've had several people say to me, Barry, I am seeing money differently than I did a year ago.
Yep.
And, thanks to your education and the Insurance and Estates videos, anyway, it's fun to have that experience because this stuff isn't being taught in the schools. This stuff isn't being taught at the major powerhouse financial companies. They would prefer you put all your money in the market. So it's fun to see the transition of the client going through the process.
Absolutely. And you said it right. That's why we're here to give people an education around money, assets, legacy that is a bit contrarian, when you consider the battle for dollars and everything that's going on right now. So definitely we always encourage people to question the status quo and question what you're told, including what we're telling you if you want, and sort it all out and then come back and ask questions and do that due diligence. I like the example that you're going to share today, Barry, because it's one of those things that is contrarian to the mainstream, right? You have all this tax deferred income in the system with the IRAs, 401ks, and everything. So I know you've got a little quick example. To me, this is an example of everything that you do, right? You're doing something that's very very not conventional in the sense that it's it's tax-free income in retirement. However, it also is becoming more popular. A lot of people are growing to understand that it's an important component to retirement.
Yeah. And let me say this
Yeah,
as a question: who doesn't want tax-free retirement income? Right?
right.
I asked that question, and 100% of the time, everyone tells me, yeah, I want tax-free. But the next question is, well, where's most of your money? And this is kind of an epiphany where a light will go on for people and they'll say, oh, I want tax free, but I don't have any money in my portfolio that's tax free. So we're going to help you with that. So the example that I have here, this is an illustration with one of our top insurance companies. And the example is a client example. This client putting more money into their 401k than they're getting a match on. And my recommendation is don't put more money into your 401k above the match. Move that money into what we call a high cash value, overfunded, dividend paying whole life insurance policy. Could also call it infinite banking. So 20,000 a year going into a policy from the age of 34 to the age of 64. 30 years. 600,000 goes in during that time. And then the tax-free income starts. He will begin taking out $90,000 a year from the age of 65 to 90. Steve, that's 26 years. He will have put in 600,000, paid tax on that 600,000, but we're going to show him taking out over 3 million 100% tax free. And along the way, Like if that isn't amazing enough to put in 600 and take out over 3 million tax free, along the way, he had access to cash if he needed it. Like I said earlier, if I had one of these policies back in 2008, I would have weathered the storm much better. But also, he has a permanent death benefit. So if he does pass away at 39 or 51, like these clients of mine recently have, there's a permanent death benefit that will go to his family. And there is a myth out there. I'm doing a rebuttal video right now on buy term insurance and invest the difference. And these guys are saying, well, you should have term insurance and you don't need it. You can self insure when you get older. And I'm saying, look, why would you take that risk? Why would you put your family into that type of situation where here you've got a permanent death benefit? So whether you pass away at 39 or 99, there's a permanent death benefit that you can then leave to family for legacy. We're showing here over $3 million of tax-free income. And that's what I want to reiterate. People working with us, there is an outcome. The outcome, tax-free money, guarantees, liquidity, predictability. Those are outcomes we all want. Those are outcomes that help us sleep well at night. So look at your own numbers, because when you see how well a properly structured high cash value whole life policy works, add it to your portfolio. Doesn't have to replace everything, and we don't recommend it replace everything. But adding it to your portfolio will give you more peace of mind.
Yeah, and I encourage folks pursue peace of mind. That's why we're here. That's why Barry's doing what he does, is to help deliver peace of mind. I encourage you guys to pick up a copy of Barry's book. It's a very easy, well done, beautiful overview of infinite banking. Barry, you've done a great job with it. And so yeah, I encourage people to pick it up. I encourage people to get with you and look at how unconventional thinking can impact your finances. Obviously, that is going to be important no matter what stage you're at in life. Consider things that maybe you haven't heard and look a little bit deeper, as we're finding a lot of things that are branded as kind of fringe end up to be true and very helpful. We're in that age where that is becoming more and more obvious. So anyway, very great examples. Appreciate your passion, your commitment, and thank you all for joining us today. Also, leave a comment or a question. We're happy to respond and welcome that. And if you've had some success with this asset, let us know. With that, I appreciate y'all jumping in today with us, and we'll see you in the next one.